Hi, friends. I am so excited. Today is a great day to be talking to PCSGrades. I have got Lizann Lightfoot here with us. My name is Ebeth. I am the coordinator of special projects here at the Rosie Network. And we are, for our Rosie Talks today, are talking all about PCSing your business. Oh my gosh, it is PCS season. And so it is upon us. And I know that we have so many questions about the right way to do this. And I mean, PCS can be overwhelming, but to try to move your business to boot is also challenging. Lizann, I am so delighted to have you here today. When we reached out to PCSGrades, we knew that y'all would be the experts on how to PCS, but then to also have somebody who also is a business owner and really understands sort of the nuances of moving from location to location. I'm so excited to have you here. So for those of you who don't know Lizann, she is a dynamo. She is a military spouse. Of course, she's also a busy mom of 5, a published author. She has a blog called The Seasoned Spouse, and also works with PCSGrades. So if you would just tell us a little bit more about yourself, we're dying to know, and about PCSGrades as well.
Absolutely. Well, it is such a pleasure to be here with Rosie Network today. So thank you for the invitation. And it's definitely an honor to represent PCSGrades. If you haven't heard of us, we are a company that specializes in helping military families move with content and information that is all produced by military families for military families, trying to make that process just a little bit easier going from point A to point B. And I've been with them for 2 years now as the senior content editor. It is just such an honor and a pleasure to help other families and support them in something that I know personally is very challenging and frustrating at times. So our journey probably started, well, I met my husband in 2000, a very long time ago, got married in 2007. And after almost 10 years as a military spouse, I had several children. We had moved several times. We had done an overseas tour, and I just wanted to be able to share some of those experiences and lessons learned with my community. So that's why I started my Seasoned Spouse blog in 2016. Since then, I've written several books, have published hundreds of articles, and it's just been thrilling to support our community and work with them. So thank you.
That is absolutely amazing. And I have to say, I am PCSing this summer at myself. Ooh. And so I went right on to PCSGrades, where I could get some of that information that you get from other spouses as well. So that is so invaluable. So how many moves have you made over the years?
So as a spouse, I've done 6 total, most of those with children, and only 2 as a business owner. So the first one, I owned a business in Camp Pendleton, California, and got very short distance orders to move to San Diego, California. So that one was sort of a easy peasy drive down the road kind of move. But since then, we had to do a cross country from San Diego to Gulfport, Mississippi. And that one was with 5 kids. And in both cases, we ended up doing the PPM Diddy move for various reasons that I'll get into shortly, but those are my 2 move experiences with owning a business.
Oh my gosh. So, wow. Now, were you living on base at the time, or were you living off base for those moves?
All 3 of those locations, we were on base: Pendleton, San Diego, and now Gulfport.
Oh my gosh. Well, and you're in Gulfport now.
Yep. It's a Navy base here on the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Very hot and sweaty during the summer, I will say that, but overall a pretty lovely area.
That's amazing. Well, so tell me, what stage of business were you when you made each of these moves, and what were some of the challenges that you faced?
Yeah, I think it definitely matters. You know, all businesses are going to be different. So I apologize to some of my listeners if you have a brick and mortar or something that isn't quite as relatable. I'm not representing all business types and business owners here. But from our experience at the first move within the state of California, I was definitely in the fledgling growth stage of a business. It had kind of just been established as an LLC. In the second move, I was a little bit more established. My brand was a little bit well known. I was a military spouse of the year, leaving that base, and I already had a contract with a publisher. So slightly different growth stages, but probably from a logistical view, it was mostly the same. And as a freelancer, there's lots of pros and cons. One of the drawbacks is that you're only making money when you're working and turning in projects. So unless you have some passive income streams, unless you have multiple ways to gain money during your move, then as a freelancer, you can definitely expect that you're going to take an income hit during PCS season, whether that's just the week that the movers are coming to pack out your house, or the week that you're driving across country, or however long that period of turmoil is going to be. And so for us, that was one of the reasons that we considered that PPM Diddy move, because I figured if I know I have to take a few weeks stepping back, if I know I need less assignments during this season, I might as well pack up our whole house and get the government to pay me for that time and at least recover some of that lost income. So for us, that factored in. I'm not sure that that would necessarily be a determining point for everyone. I'm not saying that a PPM is the correct solution for every business owner, but it is something to consider if you're worried about, losing clients, losing sales, or an income loss during your move, that the government does reimburse your efforts during a PPM, and that might be one way to kind of offset your losses.
Right. I definitely find the same thing. I am a personal wardrobe stylist as well. And so one of the beautiful things about being a business owner I found is that I can stop and start my business when I need to. But you do have to make preparations for that sort of thing, with your accounting and finances and your strategic planning really for your business. So,
right. But the flip side of that is, as a freelancer, I'm always looking for new content. And my husband has a running joke with me now that every time we get some crazy news from the military and have to go through some bizarre situation, he'll say, well, honey, I'm just giving you more content for your work. So think outside the box, because there may be ways that you can use the move to either build new business collaborations, to create additional content. I've been able to sell, many articles based on the PCS process, or moving with kids, or driving across country. So find ways that you can connect with companies and attempt to monetize your lifestyle change and your moving situation, and make the most of it.
I'm curious, what made you decide to start your own business?
That's a good question. It was a combination of desperation after years of unemployment and being stationed in California as a family of 6 with 4 young children. We had to live on base because we couldn't afford to live off base. And even on my husband's salary, we were very, very tight financially. And he was deployed, of course, during some of the time that we were stationed there. So I couldn't take a traditional job. I couldn't afford childcare in the area. And that really limited me to being able to work from home on a child-friendly schedule, as so many moms can relate to. And I was an English major in college, and I'd had some previous experience with writing a travel blog. I'd actually self-published a book before starting the Seasoned Spouse blog. So I really felt comfortable marketing my writing skills and starting fresh with a professionally oriented blog, and really creating a business that would be fulfilling to me as a writer, but also helpful to my MilSpouse community.
I love that so much. I think, there are so many of us that are making the leap to entrepreneurship for that very reason. So I think it's over 50% of military spouses are now turning to entrepreneurship. And so, again, this topic is so incredibly timely with the summer being upon us. Would you say, is there a such thing as a PCS proof business? So like a business that will survive through a PCS? It sounds like you've done it successfully.
Yeah, I think the more portable and digital your work is, the more likely it is to survive a PCS move. So obviously a brick and mortar store is, the least portable, but I also know many military spouses who've successfully made that work. So I don't want to rule out any business. There are so many creative spouses out there and people who have found solutions. But yes, if you specialize in services, in digital products, things that are downloaded, consulting, any of these things that can be done through any location using modern technology, the more that you can rely on that, then just the more options you have as a spouse and as a business owner. And we hadn't discussed the topic of living on base and living off base yet, but the more product oriented your business is, the more limited you will be working out of base housing. So if I'm marketing to the world and offering digital downloads, that's okay in base housing. If I have people driving up to my driveway and picking up physical products all the time, that can really get flagged as a problem. So when you're deciding whether to live on base or off base or what your housing choices are, you need to consider what your business needs are. And are you using your house as your place of business, or do you need, another workspace? Do you need a storefront? Do you need some other workshop area to make your business become a reality?
That's so true. I know for us, at one point we moved overseas and we are a Navy family moving from the Army to the Marine Corps, living on an Air Force base. And so, right. So, it was joint operation. And but to register my business, I had to go up the chain of all the Air Force, the Marine Corps, and the Navy to get approval to run my business, which is a virtual business, out of base housing. So there are regulations that you definitely have to follow, and you're absolutely right. If it's a product-based business, I know one of my girlfriends, an Air Force spouse, had a boutique out of her home. So then living overseas, for instance, you have to think about the tariffs and customs and how will you get product on base. And
I know overseas bases do not allow you to use the base post office for business purposes. So you would be looking at the local national mail, which is, an international charge to the US. Huge difference, and definitely something to consider.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would you say that CONUS, that it's a little bit easier to get a business registered on base? Do you know?
I'd say yes. There's probably more red tape overseas. And also because, like you said, it does depend on the branch and the local country. So we lived overseas in Spain, and it was actually a Spanish Navy base. It was not American owned. And that's a slightly different situation from Germany or from Japan, say. So even if you've interviewed another spouse and said, oh, tell me about your overseas business, their answer might not be applicable to your situation. So you definitely have to do your local research. So there's just one less layer of red tape being CONUS. Mm-hmm. But again, you have to know your local regulations and your branch as well.
Absolutely. And I think this is where I would say it's such a good reason to network with other entrepreneurs, other spouses who are going through the same sorts of changes, because it may feel as though you're the first one to ever establish a business on base, because different people are reading different regulations and that sort of thing. So gather all of your intel that you absolutely can. So when you were getting ready to move, how did you prep your business to shut down on one end and then reopen on the other? What sort of steps do you recommend?
So there's all those moving parts going through a PCS, and a big part of it is your timeline. And so I would start a month or so ahead of time talking with my regular clients. If I knew that I was moving at the end of the month, and I usually turned in an assignment with the client at the end of the month, I might ask them, hey, can I turn it in early, or can I work ahead and do next month's, just to have that communication, let them know that you're moving. There's nothing that you can do about the move, so you might as well be upfront and share that information and get as much flexibility as you can. Trying to get assignments ahead of time or squeeze all your hours earlier before the movers come can definitely be helpful. I know people who have done plenty of work while they're surrounded by boxes and they've got their laptop set up on a box. And I think when I first got here, the first thing we did was plug in the modem and sit on the bare floor with no furniture and just write on my laptop for the first day or so. So it can be done, but the more flexibility that you give yourself, definitely the better. working on those deadlines and those timelines. But for me, I will offer a unique solution that I know this doesn't work for everyone, but we were actually very lucky that my LLC was registered at the same address throughout all three of those moves, because we actually made the unusual decision to buy our retirement home, our forever home, in advance. And that was the perfect place to register my LLC so that it could remain in one state, following those states' laws, dealing with those state taxes. And that way I didn't have to make those legal changes when I kept changing my own physical location, because the business location remained constant. And I know people who have done that by registering through maybe a family member's address, or if there is a home that you own and you're renting out and you're able to at least legally register your business there. It's a great solution. And that's why PCSGrades is really happy to be able to connect military families with the right homes, to research your neighborhoods ahead of your move and figure out what's going to be the best solution for you. Our military-friendly network of realtors, real estate agents, is ready to answer all of those questions for you and help you figure out how your business can move from one location to the other.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And that's something I never would have thought of. I'm a little embarrassed to say, we did the same thing. We bought our retirement home, our forever home, many years ago, and I wish I had thought about that. So something to consider. Such a great tip. Yeah, I love the fact that PCSGrades is so easy to navigate as well, and it really gives you such good insight on your upcoming duty station and where you're going. And I would encourage people to definitely to check out PCSGrades, as well as to put your own rating, your own review as well, because people want to know, they want to be in the know with that.
For sure.
So, excuse me, with regard to, you had mentioned the with your LLC and being in one state, I know that state licensure is a real issue with people. Do you have any thoughts on how someone might prepare for that sort of thing?
I would just say that if you can't go the route of buying a house at one location and staying with your business registered at that location, that you definitely do need to get those answers. And, I'm not an expert. I can't answer the legal and the tax related questions for every state that's out there. There will be differences moving from one state to another. Even when you're within the same state, like when we stayed in California, you're still going to different counties. And so you need to make sure that you're staying on top of all of that. And that's why I actually refer to Rosie Network for some of that, because I know that you guys have that excellent program. Is it the Service to CEO?
Service to CEO.
Yeah, that walks you through all of those steps of starting a business, asking those legal questions. And they really do a great job connecting you to experts who can answer that for you, so that you don't just feel like you're fumbling along in the dark and trying to figure this out. Because I know that whatever situation you are facing, there's probably another brave military spouse that has done something similar somewhere along the way, and they can kind of guide you and answer those questions for you.
I absolutely agree. And great plug for Service to CEO. It is an amazing no cost program that we have for both spouses and veteran owned businesses. And one of the things that we encourage in our Service to CEO program is having a bail team, is having a banker, an attorney, insurance, and now I can't think of the L. Legal. So anyway, yeah, so it's so incredibly important that you check that out, because even like if you're living out in town, you need to know what the zoning laws are for your particular area, and one town next to another town may have something different. So you definitely need to connect with also maybe the SBA and your local authorities as well, to find out what sort of requirements. So I know for me, I have a service-based business. And so when I relocate, I am always looking to start with new clients. What recommendations do you have for people for finding new clients at their new location?
Yeah, I know it's tough, and it definitely depends where you're going. Is it a very military friendly central area like San Diego where you can make a gazillion connections? Or is it a really tiny base on coastal Mississippi, for example, where there's much fewer networking opportunities? So it will depend on your location and your branch and your situation. But I always advise people to start before the move. Do not wait until you've arrived, boots on the ground, to start looking for clients. You can start that months in advance. Join those local Facebook groups and membership groups, and people that are in the area, that are in your area of interest, and start making those connections or asking polite and thoughtful questions. You can definitely connect with people ahead of time, and then also use that military spouse network. If you are Navy and you're going to an Army base, find other Army spouses that can have been stationed there, that would have friends there, that could kind of put in a good word for you and maybe make a warm handoff, so that you're not walking in as the new kid on the block that no one knows, and trying to find your own way. So I definitely advise using that network that we have. And that's one thing that I love about PCS Grades too. You mentioned our neighborhood review system, where you can leave a review of either the neighborhood that you're leaving or the neighborhood that you're going to, any place that you've lived, really, on base or off base. We want reviews of all the neighborhoods. And you can go through and read either from our area guides or from our reviews on our site, which are all free, by the way. You can find out what people have said about these different parts of town, these different areas. And that can help you choose, oh, if it seems like all of my clients are more likely to live in this area half an hour from the base, do I want to live over there, or am I willing to commute over there all the time? And you can kind of get a feel for the area before you've even arrived. So I love being able to help families visualize where they're going to be and really evaluate the pros and cons of where they should live.
Wow, that is such a good point. I mean, I think that just the idea of, if you're planning on really reestablishing your business, know where your audience is and how to connect with them. And so when in making a home decision, that is brilliant. That is such a smart idea. Um, and I do know that, when I relocate to a new area, I do try to find professional networking groups as well, because I think that, we motivate each other. And there's sometimes during a PCS, I don't know if you find this, but you get completely overwhelmed. You're in the weeds of all of it, and the last thing you want to do is think about restarting your business somewhere new. And so it's so great to reconnect with other professionals in that space to help re-energize you and get you ready to hit the ground running. We talk a lot about the sort of lonely solopreneur if you're in business by yourself, and how challenging that can be. When you have moved, did you feel like you were restarting your business for the first time, or did it feel like a continuation of what you had been doing? And you were in two different stages, so maybe you could.
Yeah, a little bit of both. I think the first move was actually easier because it was within the state. My local network was essentially the same because I was only going an hour and a half away. So I was still able to attend some local events. And honestly, I was moving closer to San Diego. So the things that had been a stretch for me before were now right in my backyard. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely an easier move for the business. I felt like I already knew people in the area and was able to make those connections. Going from that environment to Mississippi was much more challenging. And it did feel in some ways like starting over. I'm a Marine Corps wife, and now we're at a Navy base with no Marine Corps unit. So kind of finding my feet and my local connections and my people has been a little bit harder. And I think also just from a business perspective, yes, you want to focus on those local groups and those local activities. Always ask if you can get your product into the exchange. Always ask if you can make a presentation or be involved in the spouse group or the base group or the unit group. But don't forget about those national events too, that you can do from anywhere. Mm-hmm. I try to make sure that I'm always doing at least one national event per year just to keep my name out there, to keep people familiar with my face, and also to kind of push myself to treat my business as a business, that it's not just a hobby that I do on the side when I have time, but it's something that is always growing and needs to be invested in and needs to be fostered and all of that. So find those national opportunities where you can connect with your ideal clients, your ideal collaborators, people who are going to inspire you, and make sure that you're saving up some of your business funds to travel to those events.
I love that idea so much. Are there any events in particular that you recommend that you've been to that?
I have had some really great connections and opportunities from the Military Influencer Conference. I highly recommend that one. It is for veteran owned and for spouse owned businesses. Just an incredible opportunity to get everyone in the same room, all focused on establishing a business, growing a business, making connections. And it's been a very supportive environment. I went when I was a fledgling writer. I think I'd only been writing for about a year, and I thought, I'm so small. No one's going to know who I am. I'm just kind of this tiny little voice on the internet. And I walked into that room and people told me they recognized me, or they knew my brand, or they'd been on my blog and read my articles. And it was just an amazing reminder that I had created a business and people knew what that business was, and they admired and respected what I had to offer.
I think that's important too, because I think we forget where we are at in that space, and that we are the expert at what we do. And there are times that we may not feel that way until we're around other people, when and I think it can be really confidence boosting, and a good reminder. And those conferences also tend to really get you like revved up and get renewed energy coming back into your business. So I think that is so smart. I think another way that I have found to stay connected, and I don't know if you do this, but networking with other people and doing Instagram lives, Facebook lives, that sort of thing is another great way to get your name out there, providing value. I don't charge for my talks. Some people do choose to do that, but it's a great way to market yourself and get recognition as an expert in the field. So
for sure. After having my most recent book published, my book Open When: Letters of Encouragement for Military Spouses was just published by Military Family Books in September of 2021.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that's my first traditionally published book, so it's very exciting. But of course, I didn't have the budget to hire a professional publicist or anything like that. So I have learned a lot about the world of free PR. And like you said, inviting collaboration with other businesses, spouse-owned businesses, is an amazing way to promote each other and kind of find those shared objectives. Following people's podcasts and asking to be on their podcast has been amazing. And it is time consuming. It can be difficult to weigh, how much do I want to spend on promoting my business versus actually creating and doing the business work. So everyone has to make that decision for themselves. But there are so many amazing free PR opportunities out there with military owned podcasts and websites. You can be a guest writer. Like you said, you can do the Instagram takeovers, all types of social media exchanges. So there's a lot out there and you just need to be creative.
Absolutely. And I love that marketing piece. And I love that you mentioned collaboration, because I think that, with the more you collaborate with other business owners and you are giving back to a community, the more receptive people are to you as well. So I think that that's great, and so excited about your book. You definitely need to make sure that we have all the information on where to find that.
Sure. I can show you real quick. It looks like this. And it is a collection of letters written to the military spouse in very particular challenges and specific moments of military life. So there is a whole section on PCS moves and, open when you first have orders, open when you have to leave a home you love, open when it's time to tell the kids about the move. And it's just that little voice of reassurance and encouragement that you need to find in that moment to gather your strength and kind of take the next step forward.
Oh, I love that so much. And I think that we all need that sort of those sorts of words of encouragement from time to time. So that's amazing. So do you have any other sorts of tips and tricks that you would recommend in PCSing your business?
I would definitely just say for anyone thinking about whether they can make a business work in this mobile military lifestyle, that the answer is almost always yes. There is someone out there who has found a way to promote any type of product or service or business you can imagine. So whatever questions you're having, I'm not going to say that it's an easy journey, but definitely seek out those other spouses that can answer those questions, that believe in you, that can inspire you, because it is so fulfilling and rewarding to know that you have your own business coming with you, that you are not losing 6 months or 9 months or a year worth of work trying to find a new job at every single location. And it's just kind of a weight off of my shoulders that as we approach my husband's retirement, he's the one now that, is looking for a job and doesn't know what he's doing next. And we're like, well, at least we know that my work is stable. At least we know that I have something that will be constant and that the family can rely on. So having that has been just a huge support for our family. It has been rewarding personally. It has been rewarding on a social and connectivity level. So it's definitely worth it, and do the research. I know that the beginning stages can be very difficult, but that's why you have companies like the Rosie Network, like PCSGrades, that want to kind of walk you through those steps, make that process a little bit easier for you. So please turn to us for resources and for all the free help that we can offer.
I just love this so much. I think that we were just thinking about the whole process. And one of the things that you said was to ask. I think so many of us forget that it's okay to ask those questions, and it is okay to break those, whether you're asking to be interviewed on a podcast or you're asking to for information on how to register your business in a new state. Don't be afraid. I mean, you're the boss, and other people have walked in your shoes and are ready and willing to share that sort of information. So
yeah, I will say I've always been amazed by the supportiveness and the willingness of the military spouse community. I think when I started my blog, I did feel like I was doing it alone. I didn't actually know any other writers or bloggers personally. I just kind of Googled what were the biggest military blogs at the time. And I was holding these people up on a pedestal, like, wow, look, they have thousands of followers. I would never be able to be in the same room as them, but maybe I can use them as a model. Well, I have now eventually met those people. They're wonderful, thoughtful people. And they've answered so many questions for me and been so supportive along the way. And now I just hope that I can turn around and do that same kindness to other people who are starting up their companies. I love that expression that a rising tide raises all ships. And so any military spouse that is succeeding in their business is sort of lifting our whole community. It's not me versus you. And if I do better, you have to fail. It's when I do better as a community, we all do better. So I love to keep that in mind.
I agree wholeheartedly. I know in my field, it can be very competitive. Wardrobe stylists are not, when I first started, did not want to share any sort of information. And so I'm finding now my networks and within the military spouse community, there are a lot of style folks. And so but it's a matter of doing the research and trying to find those connections. And you can do that by just having warm, open conversations with somebody who might say, hey, do you know so-and-so? They do XYZ, and I'd love to connect you. So, it's, having that sort of open communication is so good.
And I think one final tip would be to definitely treat your business like a business. It's not a hobby. It's not just something you're doing in your spare time on the side, or that gig economy that we refer to, but this is an actual business. And that means that you need to treat it that way by having your accounts in order, having a business bank account, You don't necessarily have to have an accountant, but it doesn't hurt to have one. And you need to know how to do your own accounting if you haven't hired a professional. Having those legal questions answered, having the right paperwork signed, all of that. I know it sounds very intimidating, very tedious, very not fun when you are planning a PCS move, but in the long run, it is absolutely essential. And it makes a huge difference to the growth of your business. My husband was the one that really encouraged me to take that step, to view myself as a professional, not just some little blogger that was writing when I felt like it, but something that I was doing regularly and earning income from regularly. So it needed to be labeled as an LLC and registered as such. So now I have the shiny little seal and everything.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I think, a lot of times folks forget that we are business owners in our own right, and it does need to be treated that way. We need to respect our business. It's a good way to respect ourselves and also to contribute to our families. And for me, not just contributing to my family, but fulfilling that sense of I can't even think of a word for it, but just feeling
some of it's identity.
Yeah,
yes, that
identity.
personal identity that, of course, we're all military spouses, and I'm very proud to be a military spouse. I know amazing people that bear that title, but I'm also a strong believer that that's not the only title one person can have, and that we all have our own unique abilities and talents and skills and knowledge. And I really, truly believe that everyone has a story to share or something that is valuable to contribute to our community. And so what you have is worth something, and that can be your business.
That I want to add on to that as well, because when I got married, I was a little bit older. I was 28 when I got married, and I was a litigation adjuster in the insurance industry. And I could not find, we moved to Southern Maryland and there were no jobs in my career field. And so I did the job hopping thing, and I never got back professionally to where I had been. So it's never too late. I was in my 40s in my mid 40s, when I decided to start a business. And I've been in business for 10 years. I am doing something that I absolutely love, that is a complete deviation from that sort of world. So, you can find something that inspires you and delights you and fires you up every day. And so, yeah.
I love that. And I think that is a story that's so common in our community. The inability to find work, the job hopping, the frustration, like we've all been there. And so many spouses have eventually answered the question in their own way. And there's 1,000 different answers. So my freelance writing company is one. You can find your own answer. It doesn't have to look anything like mine, but absolutely, you should be finding those things that fulfill you personally, your own gifts and abilities. Mine makes sense now because I was an English major and an MBA master, but I didn't earn either one of those degrees planning to be a freelance writer and a published author. Like you can connect the dots afterwards, but sometimes as you're going through your own journey, you don't even see where it's leading you. So I definitely encourage people to just keep asking for help along the way, keep looking to other people for inspiration, and, find your own answers.
Well, thank you so very much for taking the time to come and speak to us today. This has been so great. You definitely need to let us know where to find you, share your links with us as well. What's the best place for people to reach out to you?
Well, my blog is seasonedspouse.com, but I'm on all the social media as @seasonedspouse or The Seasoned Spouse. So please look me up, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and I would love to talk with all of you.
Oh, that's amazing. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful that you decided to spend some time with us today. And for those of you who are interested in knowing more about our Service to CEO program, I also want to let you know that we are currently accepting applications for our our fall cohorts. So if that is something you're interested in, we will also include the links for our application. We would love to have you. It is a no-fee program that is for military spouses and veterans who are interested in entrepreneurship. So thank you again so much for joining us, and I hope to see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.